Luna and Daniel were childhood sweethearts. A month before our wedding, he sent his younger brother, Ethan, who had been raised abroad, back to the country to seduce me. They tried to get compromising photos of me cheating to force me to break off the engagement. Standing outside Daniel's office, holding the homemade lunch I'd prepared for him, my entire body grew cold and trembled as I listened to the conversation inside. Bro, I've been relentlessly pursuing her for a month, and she won't even accept my friend request. A sweet, delicate female voice responded, Daniel, she's been so faithful to you. What about our plan then? Daniel said firmly, if we can't get her to, then well, just get her drunk and, anyway, my wife will only ever be you, Tiffany. I immediately dropped the lunchbox in my hand and accepted Ethan's friend request. I texted, are you free tonight? After I sent it, Ethan and Tiffany were overjoyed, while Daniel's aloof expression began to crack. Tiffany happily linked arms with Daniel. Daniel? She called out to my dazed fiancé. Ethan also asked suspiciously, what's wrong, bro? You're not having second thoughts, are you? Daniel quickly snapped back to reality and gave a perfunctory explanation. Later, I returned to Daniel's place, feeling like a zombie. Although I immediately came up with a revenge plan, I truly loved Daniel. I collapsed onto the sofa and cried for an unknown amount of time, my heart aching with sharp pains. We were childhood sweethearts, innocent and carefree. How did we end up like this? Daniel liked innocent, sweet girls. For his sake, for so many years, I had always suppressed my true self, playing the naive and sweet persona by his side, and in the end, they mistook me for an easy target, didn't they? I remained in that slump until evening, then wiped away my tears. Looking up, I took out my phone and made a call. The heiress. What are your orders? Starting today, have someone track and investigate Daniel. I hung up the phone. I took my most sensual V-neck fitted dress from the closet and sat in front of the mirror to do my makeup. Changing from my usual sweet look, I put on my favorite bold and sophisticated makeup. Since you want to play games, I'll play along until the end. Holding my phone, I waited for it to connect while observing the person opposite me. The call connected. Hello? Daniel's cold voice came through. He was always a man of few words with me. I asked, my voice feigning sweetness. Honey, are you coming home tonight? There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, he spoke. I'm working late tonight, so I won't be back, you tonight. Before could finish, hearing he wasn't coming back, I hung up the phone. Then, I wholeheartedly began observing Ethan, who stood before me with a mischievous smirk. I had deliberately made that call in front of him, but he seemed even more excited after hearing me call someone else honey. I'd always heard that the Hayes family had a sickly younger son being treated abroad. No one in the circle had ever seen him, and there were rumors he was already in a vegetative state, but the Hayes family was unwilling to reveal it. Now it seemed Ethan indeed resembled Daniel somewhat. Their eyes were similarly deep and captivating, but compared to his brother's resolute gaze, Ethan's eyes held a hint of fragility, with a slight upward curve at the corners, like an aloof little kitten, hoping it'd reach out to pet him, yet incredibly proud. Sister, would you like a drink? He broke the silence first. I smirked and readily agreed. Sure. Ethan wore a black shirt, with the top few buttons undone. As he leaned over to pour my drink, the faint outline of his abs was visible beneath his shirt. Do you usually work out? I asked directly. Ethan paused for a moment, then said, yes, sister. Do you want to see? Yes. Without a moment's hesitation, Ethan slowly began unbuttoning and taking off his shirt. It was the lean muscle I liked. I really had to thank my fiancé for delivering such a specimen right to my door. Sister, do you like my physique? Or your husband's? The boy in front of me posed a difficult choice. My hand reached out and rested on him. Of course, I like yours. My hand lingered on Ethan's body. He seemed a little ticklish, recoiling slightly. Soon, his fair skin began to flush. I could feel him secretly tensing his muscles. So cute. Ethan leaned closer, wanting to take things further with me, but I stopped him. He looked at me, still wanting more, and asked in confusion, what's wrong, sister? Don't you want to? I shook my head. I'm not that kind of person. You said you liked me. Then you need to prove how much you like me. If you pass, I'll reward you. Also, I need a copy of your medical report and everything. Ethan listened intently to what I said, then nodded firmly. I will prove it to you, sister. I really like you. I patted his messy hair, a gesture of encouragement. Ethan was still too young, after all. He didn't know that when people lie to themselves for too long, they start believing it. That night, I sent Ethan home and indeed didn't return that night, as if to give me and his brother ample space. In the morning, I held my coffee, picked up my tablet, and looked at the pictures my private investigator had sent me. Last night, Daniel and Tiffany couldn't hold back and had an intimate encounter in the car. Seeing how familiar they were with each other's bodies, it seemed they had been intimate countless times without my knowledge. Tiffany was Daniel's assistant. Initially, I considered that she had just graduated and entered the workforce, so I even told Daniel not to be so harsh and to take care of the young woman. I never imagined they would take care of each other in bed. Although and I were in an arranged marriage, we had watched each other grow from awkward teenagers into adults. During our awkward teenage years of young love, we would hide where the elders couldn't see us and steal kisses. Until yesterday, I thought we would always be together, that our feelings couldn't be shaken by any conflict or outside interference. As I was thinking this, Daniel came home. He looked haggard, as if he hadn't slept well, or perhaps was overindulging. He saw me sitting at the dining table, paused for a moment, then greeted me. Afterward, he scrutinized me. That look made me very uncomfortable, as if he was checking if his possession was damaged. Then he noticed a new jewelry necklace around my neck. "Where's your necklace? Why aren't you wearing it?" Daniel asked urgently. I pouted, feigning a bit of grievance. "That's a matching necklace, and you don't wear it with me. What's the point of me wearing it alone?" After we got engaged, I excitedly spent $1 million from my card to buy 2 matching necklaces, wanting to declare my claim. At first, Daniel would wear it to humor me, but one day he said the necklace was too flashy, unsuitable for a grown man to wear for business, and stopped wearing it. Now, it all made sense. Yesterday, I had already given my necklace directly to the cleaning lady, knowing he was in the wrong. He didn't say anything more. In the following days, Daniel came home less and less. On the nights Daniel wasn't home, his brother would come to my place to keep me company. When actually brought his medical report for me to review, I was amused by his earnestness. Perhaps it was because he was so used to seeing my aloof expression, but it was the first time Ethan had seen me smile so brightly, and he stared at me for a long time, completely lost in thought. "What's wrong?" I asked. Ethan didn't answer, just slowly moved his head closer to me. This time, I didn't stop him. When his lips pressed against mine, he seemed a little surprised by my silent consent. Then, what started as a tentative touch quickly became a deep exploration. He had finally gotten close to me as he wished, so he was exceptionally careful, stroking my shoulders without daring to use too much pressure with his fingertips. It was only when I pulled him closer by placing my hand firmly on the back of his neck that the distance between us closed. Becoming intimate, Ethan caught on quickly, and soon my breath was completely stolen. So this was what a truly stimulating and thrilling kiss felt like. When the kiss ended, Ethan looked at me, his eyes reddened at the corners. Damn it, he was the one who came to seduce me. But now it felt like I was bullying an innocent young man. Daniel was, after all, the Hayes CEO. He wasn't so easy for me to investigate, so I hired a hacker to infiltrate Ethan's phone. I couldn't help but sneer as I looked at the chat logs. "Daniel, how's the progress?" "Ethan, not yet." "Wait a little longer, Daniel. Hurry up, your sister-in-law is pregnant. She hasn't discovered your true identity, has she?" "Ethan, congratulations. No, she just sees me as a pretty face, it seems, and she's quite enjoying it." "Daniel, all right. You don't need to tell me the details." "Hey, pregnant?" Daniel truly thought the Vance family had no one, daring to act so wildly when the engagement hadn't even been called off yet. I'd like to see who ends up disgraced. I bought Ethan a necklace at an auction, rewarding him for genuinely amusing me lately. As expected, Ethan reported it to Daniel as well. "Ethan, bro, we've made progress. She bought me a necklace." "Daniel, what kind of necklace?" Ethan imaged. Daniel looked at the very familiar necklace in the picture, which resembled the men's necklace I had given him before. Ethan kept texting him from his end. Ethan put on the necklace, took a photo. His neck veins and collarbones were distinct and sensual. "Ethan, image bro, I can wear the gift, right? I don't have to hand it over, do I?" Ethan seemed to be deliberately showing off to Daniel, while the other side remained silent, no longer replying to his messages. That night, Daniel came home. At the dining table, it was the first time in days we had sat down face to face for a meal. Daniel still couldn't hold back and asked, "Babe, I've been too busy lately and haven't had time to be with you. What have you been up to?" I put down my chopsticks and said innocently, Nothing much, just like usual, waiting for you to come home. Have you met any new friends? I feigned thinking for a moment then, as if remembering someone, exclaimed excitedly, well, there is one. I met a younger guy, honey, who actually looks a bit like you. Daniel's eyes darted away. Oh, really? Then he pressed on. Have you been to an auction recently? Did you buy anything for me? I playfully apologized. No. There wasn't anything good to buy. Faced with my concealment, Daniel suddenly found the food in front of him hard to swallow, like chewing wax. Oh, by the way, honey, I'm going away for a few days tomorrow. Because invited me to the spa resort. It was likely a turning point in our relationship. Daniel, of course, also knew about Ethan's plan, but he suddenly became uncooperative and changed his mind, asking, can you not go? I can take a day off tomorrow. We haven't been on a date in so long. How about I go with you? Daniel sat upright, looking at me, seemingly very afraid I would reject him. I had never refused any of Daniel's requests, and this time would be no exception. I stood Ethan up. The next day, Daniel really did go on a date with me. He wore casual clothes, which I was still a bit unaccustomed to. Coincidentally, a classic film Ray screening was happening today. I remembered watching it for the first time with Daniel during our student years. We naturally decided to rewatch the movie. I held the popcorn while Daniel went to get the tickets. Watching his back, I felt a little dazed, as if we were still a close young couple. Sitting in our seats, he held my hand just like he used to, never letting go. Daniel always said my hands were soft and delicate, and he loved to knead them. His palms had calluses from lifting weights, which made my heart flutter with anticipation. I almost wanted to go back to the past. I thought I had broken free and moved on, but at that moment, tears were welling up again. Just then, Daniel's phone rang. He stood up to answer it, and when he returned, his face had darkened. Luna, something came up at work. I have to go. I'm sorry. Next time, I promise I'll spend the whole day with you. I took a deep breath. Good thing I hadn't softened. I feigned anger, but still replied understandingly, all right. There's nothing we can do. Go ahead. He ruffled my hair, as if to comfort me, then left. Soon after, I also walked out of the movie theater, looking at the pictures the detective had sent to my phone. Sure enough, something came up at work was a lie. Tiffany needing him was the truth. In the photo, Tiffany seemed to have a fever. Her face flushed, and Daniel was anxiously holding her as they headed to the hospital. I then opened the hacker's page. I couldn't help but smirk. So it turned out this was all a scheme cooked up by Ethan and Tiffany. Tiffany was displeased that Daniel was actually going on a date with me, going against their plan. Ethan was also unhappy. The two of them discussed it and decided to use a diversion tactic. Soon after I finished looking, I received a message from Ethan's sister. What are you doing? Are you done with your work today? Do you still want to go to the hot springs now? There's still time. My reservation hasn't been canceled. How interesting. I typed a reply. Okay. Come pick me up. Inside the spa resort suite, Ethan was dressed as flamboyantly as ever. Normally, a trendy guy like him would avoid me on the street, but now, he was looking at me with a blush. Sister, I've been hitting the gym these past few days. My eyebrow raised, piquing my interest. Oh, let me check. And so, I led Ethan into the private suite bathroom. It was his first time seeing me in a bikini, and his eyes were busy, darting around at the surroundings. My figure was curvy, and my waist was slim. I had to admit, I was quite confident about my body. My red lips curved into a smile. Why aren't you looking at me, little brother? Am I not pretty? Only then did Ethan look at me, his charming eyes naturally alluring. With just one glance, his face flushed even deeper. In my peripheral vision, I could sense that a certain shadow beneath the water had grown larger. I extended my hand, and spring water dripped, sliding down my body into the pool. I crooked a finger at him. Ethan immediately obediently moved closer to me, closer and closer, until suddenly, my phone rang. It was Daniel. Had he finished so quickly? What a mood killer. As I hesitated whether to answer, Ethan's possessiveness exploded. He no longer felt shy, grabbing my wrist and pulling our bodies tightly together. Don't answer it. Just be with me tonight, okay? He pleaded. The moment I nodded, a passionate kiss followed. The phone rang several more times, but it only served as a catalyst for our mood. Before long, Daniel seemed to realize something and called Ethan instead. I leaned back, and Ethan still looked at me, wanting more. It seems like your phone is ringing this time. Ethan's eyes held a hint of guilt, But then he was controlled by the desire in his mind, doesn't matter. Then, I was lifted out of the water, and he carried me back into the room. The temperature in the room steadily rose, the phones ringing and our gasps alternated, intensifying our satisfaction. Meanwhile, on Daniel's end, he had just arrived at the hospital with Tiffany. Tiffany's high fever magically vanished. Daniel looked at Tiffany with a dark gaze and questioned, "What's going on?" Tiffany rubbed her belly, feigning grievance. "Daniel, are you being mean to me and the baby?" The person opposite him helplessly rubbed his forehead. "Do you think I'm in the mood to be mean to you right now?" After saying that, Daniel began barraging me and Ethan with calls. Neither of us answered, and his face grew darker and darker. Tiffany couldn't stand being ignored and, enraged and embarrassed, tried to snatch Daniel's phone. "Daniel, wasn't this your plan in the first place? We're so close to the finish line. Why are you pretending?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she said, "Are you trying to have your cake and eat it too? Being with two women?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Don't put it so harshly. When did my affairs become yours to question? Besides, in the past, you would have been nothing more than a mistress." At this, Tiffany's tears flowed even more fiercely. She was truly boiling with rage now. Daniel ignored her, walked out of the hospital, and began searching for me and Ethan at every spa resort. By then, Ethan had already carried a tired Luna into the bathroom and finished cleaning up. I closed my eyes, feigning sleep, and couldn't help but sigh. Being a few years younger really makes a difference. 25 truly is a turning point. Listening to my steady breathing, Ethan hesitated for a moment before he began to act. I could feel him taking out his phone, his lips close to my face as he started taking pictures. He mumbled as he took photos, "I'm so jealous. Sister smells so good, I can't get enough. Why? Why does he always get the best things?" Between the lines, his disgust for Daniel was undisguised. He and Daniel were both Hayes family children. One was groomed as an heir from childhood, while the other was left to his own devices abroad. How good could the brothers' relationship possibly be? The lights in the room went out, and Ethan also fell into a deep sleep. Only then did I open my eyes, propping my head up and scrutinizing him with a disdainful gaze. What a pity. He had nothing but good looks. His schemes still needed work, little brother. Without lingering, I got up and left. The sky was already turning a pale pre-dawn gray. By the time I returned home, it was already broad daylight. I opened the door and saw Daniel sitting on the sofa. Having maintained the same posture for a long time, hearing the door open, he quickly looked up at me. In just one night, stubble had appeared on his face, and his eyes were bloodshot. As if he hadn't slept at all waiting for me, he forced himself to smile. "Luna, you're back?" I asked, puzzled. "What's wrong, honey? What are you doing sitting here so early?" "I just woke up and couldn't go back to sleep, so I decided to wait for you to come home." Daniel's lips twitched, and his fingers nervously fidgeted with the corner of his clothing. Aside from his confession to me in high school, this was only the second time I'd seen him so flustered and utterly insecure. He ultimately didn't ask, afraid of hearing anything that would break his heart. Inwardly, I couldn't help but scoff. "It's exactly as you wished. Belated affection is worthless." I couldn't help but recall my past self. After noticing Daniel and his assistant getting closer and closer, I was also terrified, afraid to ask or investigate, constantly brainwashing myself that they were just close colleagues, until the brutal reality was laid before me, and I had to accept that the man I had loved for so many years had suddenly become rotten. For a period after that, I stopped contacting Ethan, as for moved on without a second thought. We women can do that too. Every time he called from a new number, I'd block it. Eventually, I simply changed my phone number. My relationship with Daniel also became lukewarm, without passion. I wanted to see what kind of spectacle Ethan and Tiffany would put on for me once they were pushed to their limits. Unexpectedly, Tiffany went all out and caused a scene directly at the Vance shareholder meeting. After receiving the news, I rushed to the company. Inside the meeting room, compromising photos of Ethan and me were displayed on the large screen. The shareholders below murmured in shock. Daniel also arrived at the scene, glaring furiously at Tiffany. He stepped forward and, ignoring Tiffany's pregnancy, roughly dragged her, wanting to leave. "What are you doing?" Tiffany asked him hurtfully. "Stop making a fool of yourself here. Get it straight. I'm not the one humiliating myself right now." Then she turned to the shareholders, pointed at the screen, and yelled, "Everyone, take a good look. This is your company's heiress, promiscuous and unfaithful outside. Sooner or later, the Vance's reputation will be ruined by her." leading to falling stock prices and bankruptcy. Daniel angrily slapped Tiffany. The shareholders began to speculate about the relationship between Daniel and Tiffany. Amidst the chaos, Uncle, sitting at the head of the table, slammed his hand down, silencing the entire room. Enough. This is not a place for junior family members to squabble over personal matters. Then, Uncle's gaze fell on me. Luna, are these photos real? As I considered how to respond, Daniel spoke first. The man in those photos is me. That's my profile. Daniel tightly held back Tiffany, who was about to object. The shareholders below observed and commented that it indeed looked very similar. Uncle seized the opportunity to quickly give me an out, then had us escorted out. I was an orphan. My parents passed away unexpectedly the year I came of age, leaving me only the Vance, which they had built over half their lives. All the relatives, coveting the corporation's benefits, extended adoption offers to me. I ultimately chose Uncle, who was closest to me, and he had always been a great help in my father's business. That first year was my darkest. I once believed I was a jinx who had cursed her parents to death and wanted to jump into the river to commit suicide. I really did jump, as I choked on water multiple times and was on the verge of suffocating. A young man swam towards me from the shimmering water. He kissed me, gave me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and pulled me up with all his might. Finally, on the riverside lawn, he hugged me tightly and burst into tears. If you don't live, what will I do? I won't live either. That young man was Daniel. From then on, we were together. For the first few years, he truly doted on me deeply. But after he took over Hayes, he was gradually corrupted by the world of power and wealth. The spark of excitement and passion from those years faded with each passing day of routine life. If's love for me was only sparked when he faced the possibility of losing me, then I no longer needed that kind of love. At that moment, in the lounge, Daniel and Tiffany were arguing. I hid outside the door, joining the drama one last time. Daniel looked at Tiffany with disappointment. I always thought you were a kind girl. Why did you harm Luna like this today? Tiffany reacted as if she had heard the biggest joke. Wasn't I forced into all this by you? I was also a beloved daughter, cherished by my parents. But now I'm pregnant out of wedlock, and the father of my child is calling me a mistress. We agreed from the start that we'd send the photos to the Vance family, force her to break the engagement, and then we'd be together. But now you're acting like you've lost your mind. If I hadn't made a scene at the Vance shareholder meeting, would you even remember that your child and I are waiting for you? Daniel opposite her remained silent for a long time. Finally, he uttered, I truly regret it. The word regret seemed to ignite Tiffany. Disregarding her image, she lunged forward like a shrew, hitting Daniel. You regret it? You were the one who made the first move. You said you had no love left for your fiancé, only an annoying sense of responsibility. I didn't listen any further. I turned and left. But I had clearly underestimated Tiffany's methods. She uploaded the photos online. Instantly, accusations of my infidelity flooded the internet. Many comments too vulgar to read. Is her fiancé too perfect? And she's insecure, so she has to find other men? Women who don't respect themselves should be disgraced and outcast. Insiders say this heiress's reputation was already ruined. The heiress is quite pretty. Anyone want to date her? I was reading with great interest when a servant ran over to tell me we had a visitor. After that day, I moved back to the ancestral estate, and very few people knew about it. The visitor could only be Daniel. Some things still needed to be dealt with. I also found playing these games uninteresting by now. In the reception room, Daniel looked at me with a pained expression. Luna, how have you been these past few days? No matter what you've done, I'll forgive you. I was almost nauseous hearing it. I looked at Daniel mockingly. You don't seriously think I moved back to the ancestral estate all these days out of guilt, feeling too ashamed to see you, do you? Daniel had a look of understanding and magnanimity. You're overthinking it. Soon, the Vance family will terminate the engagement with the Hayes family. Daniel was surprised for a moment, then went on to say, Luna, I admit I've strayed in our relationship too, but it's okay. Many wealthy couples are like this, as long as we still love each other. Enough. I cut Daniel off, no longer wanting him to sicken me. Putting on a show of fake sincerity? I've known about your disgusting plan all along, and you have a twisted sense of humor. Sending your own brother to do your dirty work. The moment you slept with Tiffany, there was no possibility between you and me. You're about to be a father. Can't you act a little more mature? Daniel was caught off guard by my barrage. You knew all of it. Impatiently, I wanted to call the housekeeper to escort him out. Daniel's inherent confidence was not extinguished by this. He looked at me with a dark gaze. Luna, you're currently in a public scandal. Only I can clear your name. You no longer have any close relatives to rely on in the Vance family. Eventually, you'll have an arranged marriage, and you'll find that I'm your best choice. After saying that, Daniel discreetly left. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost disappeared. Daniel could wait until he died, but H never see me begging for him back, because what he didn't know was that the true person in charge of the Vance family was actually me, Uncle, who had been hiding outside and heard everything. Walked in, Uncle respectfully asked me, "Miss, do you need me to clear away those negative comments for you?" "Yes, and the things we photographed while tracking Daniel can also be released now. The groundwork has been laid." "Yes, miss." I rubbed my forehead. "Uncle, how many times have I told you not to call me that? It feels so distant." "That won't do. You are the head of the family." I looked at Uncle helplessly, and we exchanged smiles. After saved my life back then, I returned home and was disciplined according to family rules by Uncle. He made me kneel in the family memorial hall, looking at the ancestors and the memorial plaques for my parents, to reflect on the legacy my parents had built over half their lives, and how I couldn't just abandon it. I had also suggested that Uncle take over, but he refused. He said that the Vance's current glory was entirely my parents' hard work, and it should be inherited and maintained by me. In college, I studied finance. While was undergoing successor training, I was also growing step by step under Uncle's guidance, but I knew Daniel liked delicate, dependent girls, so for all these years, I remained hidden behind the scenes, and my GPA never exceeded his. So, there was a reason Daniel had such confidence. If I were just an ordinary rich young lady today, he would indeed have me under his thumb. However, Daniel had miscalculated. That night, all negative news about me disappeared. Instead, videos of the Hayes heir and his assistant having an intimate encounter in the car, maternity clinic checkup photos, chat logs, and other materials were exposed, all gifts from me to Daniel, presumably. The Hayes building must have been lit up all night, and the shareholders were losing sleep. Plus, I directly bought trending topics that dominated for 3 days straight, the kind no one could take down. The tide of public opinion on the internet had also shifted. Are the capitalists feeling sorry for us laborers working so hard? These past few days, there's been one big scandal after another to entertain me. I have this illusion that I could be a better capitalist than them. Has anyone noticed that this Hayes CEO is actually the Vance family heiress's fiancé? So, behind the gossip is a business war. He looks so proper, but he's actually a scoundrel. He doesn't want such an excellent fiancé, but cheats with his assistant? Did the intimate encounter in the car even last 5 minutes? Someone should recommend some supplements to the CEO. In the following days, Hayes' stock plummeted, and the Hayes family was overwhelmed with calls of inquiry. It took a full 2 weeks for things to settle down somewhat. Hayes lost several billion-dollar projects and became shaky at the top of the pyramid. Hayes began to have second thoughts about Daniel's position as heir. During this period, Vance publicly announced my position as a director. I no longer concealed myself and began attending various meetings and banquets with Uncle. At first, some people would look down on me, but they were immediately impressed by my undeniable strength and decisive judgment. Everyone praised the Vance family for having such a capable successor. Not long after, Daniel came knocking on my door, seeking help. In the office, Uncle and I were discussing a plan. He walked straight up and pleaded with Uncle, asking the Vance family, for the sake of their long-standing friendship, to help the Hayes family overcome their difficulties. Uncle pondered for a moment, then looked at me and said, "For such a significant matter, we need to ask for the heiress's approval." Only then did Daniel look at me, sitting in the main chair in the office. With surprise, for a moment, he didn't know what to say. He stared at me as if I were a stranger, dressed in a sharp business suit, having removed my colored contact lenses, and wearing gold-rimmed glasses while looking at documents. "Luna," I replied with a professional smile. "Daniel, the Vance family is willing to help the Hayes family through this crisis as repayment for you saving my life in the past. From now on, you and I are even," I said, enunciating each word, as if also telling myself that I was drawing a clear line with the past. Hearing even, Daniel instinctively refused. "No, don't." I narrowed my eyes and gave Daniel a cold, unfeeling smile. "It's not up to you." Having no time for pleasantries, I immediately called security to escort him out. After left, he went around asking friends in the circle and only then found out that his former childhood sweetheart had become so influential during this period. Daniel didn't give up there. That day after work, as I walked into the parking garage, I was pulled by a dark figure. Daniel had been waiting there for me to finish work. Luna, why did you hide this from me? I was already feeling the stress from work and had nowhere to vent it. Of course, it was to spare your pathetic pride, I said maliciously, my voice clearly showing my disdain for Daniel. I didn't expect to serendipitously catch your wrongdoing. Daniel's secret was exposed, and he said nervously, I didn't. In the past, I was outgoing and brilliant, participating in all sorts of competitions and attending various banquets, truly a leader among the younger generation. If nothing had happened to the Vance family, my brilliance would have forever overshadowed yours. Do you dare say you weren't even a little bit relieved when I was devastated after my parents died? I stared directly at Daniel, wanting to see through all his dark sides, not to mention, you even tried to ruin me to force me to break the engagement. The fact that I'm still willing to help your Hayes family is a huge blessing. He couldn't withstand my gaze in the end and fled in shame, never daring to face me again. Hayes suffered a major blow. Even though I diverted investment to Daniel, it never regained its former glory. In this ebb and flow, where some fall, others rise in progress, the corporation was the beneficiary this time. Under my leadership, the Vance flourished. Funnily enough, the Hayes family started including Ethan in the competition for heir, putting some pressure on Daniel. These busy days made me feel very fulfilled. Of course, my life wasn't just about work. There were also nights out, driving sports cars with my best friends. We headed to our favorite club. I often muse how great it was to make money. It gave me the opportunity to meet many handsome, young and clean-cut guys. As I walked out, holding hands with a guy in uniform who had caught my interest, I bumped into a familiar face. He looked at me with a wronged expression, as if I were the wife who had abandoned him and our child. Sister, Ethan pleaded pitifully, I finally found you. I had been so focused on dealing with Daniel that I had forgotten about Ethan. He must have learned from Daniel that their plans had already been exposed by me. I had known he was Daniel's brother from the very beginning. The guy in uniform embracing me also seemed displeased. He asked, Sister, who is this guy? Uncle? I stroked his head comfortingly and handed him my sports car keys. Go on, wait for me in the car, okay? He obediently left. Ethan saw me dismiss the other guy and looked overjoyed. However, the next second, I doused his hopes and asked impatiently, what do you want from me? He looked at me in disappointment. Why have you changed so much? Does it matter to you how I am? Do you think you own me? Excuse me, who are you? Ethan said hesitantly, if you really have needs in that regard, I can be your casual partner. I raised a hand to stop him. No thanks. I don't date anyone over 22. He wouldn't give up. Trying to salvage something, sister. I genuinely like you. I looked up, scrutinizing Ethan. Ethan, do you know you're even more disgusting than your brother? Deep down, you're jealous of Daniel. So jealous it's driving you crazy, aren't you? I know you were orchestrating things behind the scenes, making it easy for me to get those pieces of evidence. Tiffany isn't smart enough to expose them at the shareholder meeting and sow discord. That was all you're doing, wasn't it? Ethan's wounded expression lasted only a moment before he looked at me with amusement. Sister, you're so clever, smarter than all of them, but my feelings for you are genuine. I smiled, thanks, but I don't date illegitimate children. This remark truly hit Ethan where it hurt. I am the Vance family heiress, a director of Vance. What makes you think you're worthy of confessing your feelings to me? Ignoring his pale face, I turned and walked away without looking back. After all, someone was waiting for me in the car. The family already had a process in place for illegitimate children. It was said that after Tiffany's child was born, it was immediately sent abroad. Tiffany was dismissed with a sum of money, never even getting to see her child. Daniel's incompetence meant he could only compensate through an arranged marriage. However, there weren't many suitable companies left for the Hayes family to choose from. Eventually, Uncle gossiped with me. He said he was surprised the Hayes family arranged a marriage between Daniel and Olivia. Olivia was a notoriously domineering woman, with a terrifying need to control everything around her. Her home even had surveillance cameras in every room. When was caught touching the maid's hand on camera, Olivia immediately printed 100 copies of the photos and slapped Daniel across the face with each one. As for Ethan, after working for a while, he realized he wasn't cut out for it. He continued to move abroad, living off his meager dividends each year. Before long, he fell into bad habits, indulged in excessive spending, and was already gravely ill. But none of this concerned me anymore. On the annual Remembrance Day, I went to my parents' gravesite. I carefully wiped away the dust from their gravestones. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. In the end, I still couldn't start my own family. But don't worry, Uncle treats me like his own daughter, even though he formally calls me the heiress, and is also very kind to me. My voice choked up. Just like you were to me. I once thought Daniel was my whole world, but then I realized I was wrong. I should be myself. A daughter of the Vance family, in the past, to hide my true self and my family's glory for a man. It was disrespectful to my family's honor. From now on, I won't make you worry anymore.